Welcome to another episode of the Schlegel Design Remodel Podcast. Sitting next to me today is Donna Hersop, which I'm super excited. She is a designer here at Schlegel, but Donna has a wealth of experience across the board because not only is she a designer, but she knows how to build. So she looks at it from both angles, and Donna has done some amazing award-winning projects. So Donna, welcome.
Welcome. Hello.
So today we're going to talk about exterior spaces because you've done quite a few exterior spaces. And I guess in my opinion, that seems to be a more common request than it used to be.
We're getting a lot more of that. I think people are not just thinking about living in their houses, but they're thinking living around them. You know, everybody talks about COVID and how COVID kind of got us when we were stuck in our houses. We started really developing, you know, the outdoor area. I am a big gardener, have been for a long time. I love the outdoor spaces. So I enjoy doing it because it can be a little bit more organic.
Yeah. So speaking of organic, how is an interior different than an exterior when you look at it in terms of design? Is it materials?
Materials a little bit, but you don't have anything that confines you. When you're doing an interior remodeling, for the most part, unless it's an addition, it's a house and it's a square and it's a block, or you add a lump to that. But when you go outside, a deck doesn't have to be square. It can be shaped. It can be angled. A patio can be, you know, curves, and you can have curved walls. And so if, let's say you're talking about a outdoor kitchen, there are certain things that cause you to make things at angles. But for example, a range top or a grill, yes, you've got to have a straight piece that goes with it. After that, there's no rules. So when you start thinking of the materials of stone and pavers, they come square, but they don't really come square. They come in all kinds of different shapes. I'm working on a fire pit right now that is the coolest thing, according to the stone guy. It's the coolest thing he's ever done.
Which is a big compliment. They've done quite a bit of.
Yes. So it started out, it's a fire pit. So we started out with the shape. It has no relationship to that shape whatsoever. I mean, it has things sticking out, and yes, it has some square stones, but we're going to kind of chunk them across and add some pebbles to it. And so I think that gives me the freedom, and it gives me the freedom to offer these things up to the client too, so that they're not thinking angles and squares and things like that.
So how do you approach it? So let's say I'm coming to you and I need something. I mean, I have a pad of grass at this point. How do you start?
I start with what the function is. What is it that you want to do here? A lot of conversation goes around, it is Kansas City, talks about bugs. You know, what are we going to do about bugs? Is it a screen porch? Is it a 2-season, 3-season, 4-season? Is it not screened at all? Is it convertible for the winter? Does it even have a roof, or is it just more an outdoor space? I mean, we can all deal with bugs and candles and smoke bombs and Mosquito Joe.
The good old Midwest. Yeah, we did Mosquito Joe.
Right. I just think it's a whole nother space. You know, I try to bring some things into it. Fencing, railings. There are these really cool metal panels you can use as privacy screens. So you have some shield from your neighbor, so you're not just sitting on your deck. So there's a lot of things to consider there. I start with, what do you want to do out there? You know, husband, wife will say, we love to have our family over. We want to grill. What else do you want to do out there? Are you going to sit out there? Are you going to have music out there? You know, what's the garden space? Do you want to walk through there? So yeah, I love it because, you know, I do so many kitchens and bathrooms, and it's like, there's the walls, you know, we put the walls between, the tub goes here. And so it's been fun for me.
How do you design with correlation to the existing structure?
I don't think it has to.
No?
No. I did a screen porch deck, typical Leawood Ranch, okay, straight. We kicked off this screen porch at an angle to the house. And then the deck went at another angle to the screen porch. So you took the back of this house, which was just flat and plain. All of a sudden you have projections that come out and roof lines that tie back in and steps going down this side. It just, sometimes it gets a little scary as the designer because it's like, I can do whatever I want. You know?
Yeah. What's your budget?
Yeah, right. Well, then there's that. Yes, that always comes up.
I think that's what makes design so cool exterior-wise, because you want it to complement the house, but it doesn't have to look like the house, right?
Right. I worked with a client recently where he had a lower level patio and an upper level patio. And we designed, not myself, but I worked with a landscape architect who designed a rock wall fountain that comes down to a pond. So now you have this water feature that's coming from the top to the bottom. Love a good water feature.
I do too.
All about the water feature.
The sound when you sit there. I don't know. It's like you just transport to a spa.
As long as it's not too loud.
Right. Yeah.
Because that was the thing, is we really had to think when I was working with the stonemason that I didn't want the water to hit a rock and then come splashing down 10 feet. You know, I wanted it to run down the wall. So you see the movement, but it's not necessarily.
How do you think about that in a consideration? Like, is there some, but like, that's something to think about when you're designing,
sure.
Is the way the water hits. Like, do other people think of that? How do you know to think of that?
Well, yes, you get the expertise of other people. Like I said, I talked to this landscape designer who had done a lot of commercial type entries and things like that. So he kind of got the ball rolling, worked with the stone guy, and we just, as he was putting it in, we kind of thought through, well, if the water's coming down here, it's going to tend to want to go this way. That was the other thing, is we needed, because it had a central point where it was coming down, we needed it to start spreading. What's that game where you put the marbles in and it starts going down? That's what we needed.
Plinko is all I can think.
Yeah, where it comes down and hits something, that's what we wanted it to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes I just think about this stuff it's things come to me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, well, what about, and what if we do? So, you know, and that's why we spend the time up front in design. You can't design everything down to the nitty gritty ahead of time, but you have your general concept. And then if something comes up, you can say, hey, this is an opportunity. I did an outdoor kitchen where we put, I think it was bluestone. We did a bluestone top, and we did stone on the back wall. And then I worked with a lighting specialist that we work with and got just the right light so that if you were sitting in the lounge chairs, you're not looking up at the lights. You're just seeing. So we recessed them up into the stone top so that, again, that, what do you call it? Plinko?
Plinko. You know, the what is it called? The Price is Right. You know where you put the Plinko?
Okay. So we Plinko the light. The light Plinkos down the back of this wall. And it's on a dimmer, which is really cool. So you can kind of dim it down. And it just worked out really well. So there was a little bit of in the field type of discussion. We kind of knew what we were doing. We knew what the material was going to be. And it's like, okay, how are we going to make this work? We had corbels on the back. Okay, so the lighting, this is where reality comes in of this lighting comes in a linear piece. How are we going to make it bend? How are we going to get it behind the corbels? So, you know, just a little bit of cooperation between the lighting guy, the stone guy, me waving my hands, you know, and scoochy it.
Yeah. Scoochy it over.
Right. Yes.
So how about materials? Are there some that you lean towards as far as exteriors? Or, I'm assuming you haven't put a lot of cement slabs in. Like, you would prefer doing a natural stone.
Yeah. You know, for decking materials, the composite materials are great. They have come a long way. I think everybody that you bring that up and they go, oh, that kind of dry looking gray stuff. And it's like, well, no, that was a long time ago. Now they have some, like, I think they call it like a Brazilian walnut or something. I mean, literally a plank of this has the graining going through it as if it were a real piece of wood. They come with heavier texture, smoother texture. They come in a lot of different colors. I love to mix colors on a deck and not just have it all square and straight. So like on an edge, all the edges I try to cap in a different color. Those edges also can be where you're going down steps. It's a visual cue. that says something's changing right here. And I'm going to step from this color is indicating there's a step.
That's so subtle because I've seen a lot of your projects and have never noticed it, but I probably naturally just follow your cue of it blends so well.
Yeah, and so that's a daytime cue. I mean, yes, there's all kinds of things you can do with lighting, and I love lighting. As far as decks, I like to have things washing the deck. So as you're walking, you're seeing where the planter is, you're seeing where the dog is. But again, so the lights that we put in the risers of steps indicate that steps are coming, but what do you do in the daytime? Had a client the other day, he's walking down the steps, talking to us, falls. You know, he's walked down the steps, they're not my steps.
Right.
He falls, and it's like there wasn't any, because everything, when you start looking at steps, they all look the same.
Yeah.
You don't see what the lighting is. So, plus it's a great way to nose it, and it just looks nice. So I love the composites as far as decking materials. So easy to take care of. Cost, costs are probably about the same price as you would pay for like cedar. But having had a cedar deck that you power wash,
I was going to say, but the maintenance cost.
Oh man, I had to do it every year, and everybody you talk to, that they either do it religiously or then they finally give up and say, I'm done. I'm just done doing it.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah,
especially when the composite looks so good.
Yeah. Now I've done several in a wood product called Ipe. Ipe is absolutely gorgeous. I think it's actually a Philippine mahogany. I could be wrong on that, but it has that really fine check grain. But it'll wear like iron. I think that's the other name for it, ironwood or Ipe. But you still have that power washing. You still have that maintenance. It's not going to rot, but it grays out, and people don't like that. They want that bright wood look. So lasts a long time, but again, maintenance.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, talk a little bit more about lighting.
Okay.
I imagine you're Donna, so you layer your lighting. There's so many elements to it. So yes. Talk us through a little bit of that.
When I am outside, I want to be able to see what's going on around me. I don't want a spotlight. I don't want a gooseneck light hanging off the house or the sconce outside the back door. I like low lighting. So again, you're talking about levels. I like low lighting, like that is on the ground, that will again wash the floor. That's really all you need, unless you're doing something. So you can see where you're walking, you can see your plants, things like that in pots. And then as you get up to safety type things, I also like on your railings or on your posts, something that's a footlight. A footlight, again, is low lighting. I don't need light at my waist or in my eyes to know where I'm going down a step. So I like that. Then I like backdrop lighting. So now you can light, this gets into more like landscape lighting, but I try to introduce that as part of the whole thing, because now you see the depth of your yard. You see, I love uplighting into a tree.
I love that look. Yeah. I have none of it. Someday I hope to.
I know people. But that uplighting into the tree kind of just, now you have a cast of green, let's say. Mm-hmm. So you have some color that's kind of being introduced. So yeah, all of that is great.
What about sconces? I assume you still put something on, like the jewelry of an exterior.
Sure, but it has to be appropriate. I mean, the house sconces indicate where the door is. But let's say especially an outdoor kitchen, it gets a little tricky because you need to see what you're doing on the grill. Okay, so I've done things where I've had like posts and like a little arbor around the whole island, so that now you have like some small little bullet lights. Again, you can put them on a separate switch, so mom or dad can put the probe in there and know what the grill is doing. But I don't want to see that, you know. So yeah, that's a little tricky, especially if it's an island type. But again, if you've got some uplighting, you other than seeing right down to what's the temperature of the pork butt or whatever, you can get by with that. And I've done a couple that kind of project off the house. That's when you can kind of do a cool organic shaped thing that kind of comes up and over and then down onto the countertop. Those are fun. But you have to watch exterior lighting fixtures to be, UL waterproof listed fixtures. I did a cool pergola where we did fans because, especially with it being as hot as it's been lately,
again,
although I don't know if a fan would really even do it.
No, it's just going to move hot air on hot air.
But they do make these really cool kind that you can mount to like a 4x4 or a 6x6. You have to channel the post and then you can conceal that. But they're these old-fashioned fans, oscillating fans. You can tip them up and down and they work great. You get 3 or 4 of those in a corner and you're moving some air.
Yeah.
Without it being loud.
The majority of the time that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're like in, Hawaii where they have those misters. And you also said patios.
Yeah.
Stone. I mean, stone is so cool. There's a lot of different ways to do it when you're starting to lay a patio. You can do more of what they call a crusher substrate so that the stone nests in that.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about that because they shift, right? Unless you do it properly. They shift and then you're putting your stone down every so many years.
Well, the crusher product, what it does is it does harden up so it doesn't move. Okay. It's not like a sand bed.
Okay. And it's not quite cement, but somewhere in
Correct.
between.
It has a little bit of movement to it and drainage, so it can drain. Again, it's going to be more maintenance. Then you can put down a concrete slab, and lay your stones on that. You've got grout lines, you've got movement, don't oversell it and to say you're going to have some maintenance. Mm-hmm. But, I remember when people just did the sand beds, ants, weeds. But, there's commercially made paved stones, and you see a lot of that, people building walls and stuff out of that. And you can mix those materials because they're cost effective to make a little retaining wall or a little garden and then do what you want. And again, the colors. You can change up the colors, you can change up the patterns so that it has some interest just in those pavers.
Yeah.
As opposed to stone.
Is lighting something you put in patios too?
Not as much. Typically there's going to be some kind of a wall, or there's, you can always put just like landscape lighting around. But if you have any type of raised area, like let's say even a fire pit, where that lips over, again, you can do those linear recessed LEDs that you can recess up in there and they just wash down the face. Mm-hmm. So let's say you have a fire pit and you just want, it's hot. You're not going to burn the fire pit, but it kind of says, hey, I'm a seating area too. I can come over here, and it invites you out into that area of the yard.
We need cues to know.
Cues?
Yeah, we need cues. Tell us what to do.
Go sit out there.
How about sound? Is that something you've dealt with?
Yeah, I mean, that's become so easy now because, you have your wireless waterproof Sonos or, whatever brand. I mean, people just carry their little jug with them. My
little Dutch self, I've got the little speaker I bring out and it works just fine.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine people want that surround sound. When you go in to out, you're hearing the same thing. Or not.
You're not going to get the benefit of that outside because there's air movement and there's hard surfaces and things like that. Again, we used to do more of that because it had to be wired.
Yeah.
Or we had the rock. There was a rock that had a speaker in it.
Rock.
Yes.
Yeah, hidden in a corner.
Yeah, right. So now I think, most people kind of have their own system going on. But yes, it is important.
So not as much of a thought as it used to be.
No.
Which is kind of nice for people.
No, the real geek out thing that people are into right now are these grills.
Yeah?
Oh my God.
Okay, I think we're running out of time, but talk to us just a little bit about
Okay. You can go to the next county and grill your food because it's all on your phone and you can control the temperature and you can put in more aggregate chips. And I mean, they are just over the top.
And you accommodate for it. Like you
Absolutely.
Build around them.
That is number one item is they have to know what the grilling is. Is it the egg and the grill or is it the Traeger,
yeah.
The Traeger, which now does everything. Pizza oven.
Oh, yeah.
And then all the things down below. The warming drawers. The beverage centers, which we're doing in just...
So full kitchens.
Yeah.
How do you... Oh, my gosh. I feel like we're going to have a part 2 on this. How do you build those in waterproof cabinets?
There are waterproof cabinets out there. There are several lines, and I've used a few of them. They are composite, so you can just power wash them down in the spring and good to go. Of course, the appliances are rated for exterior, but you've kind of got to build them in appropriately. I love the warming drawer outside, because it's just, let's say
your veggies get done before your steak, or vice versa.
Well, yeah, because timing is everything. So, and we had a large group over, and I couldn't put it all on the grill. So here's these. They can sit for a few minutes, and there we go.
That's amazing. We might have to do a part 2 on that part. Yeah.
Appliance or just outdoor kitchens.
Outdoor kitchens. Okay. Yeah. And I'm going to dream about them, but let's be honest, I'm never going to have an outdoor kitchen. A grill is as good as it gets.
Unless you get the Traeger, then you have to have all the stuff that goes with it.
We might be just sticking to the charcoal liver.
They might ban those eventually. Who knows?
Donna, thank you so much for imparting a little bit of your expertise.
Thank you.